Hey everyone, I'm Jay Smith, and this is Evan McDowell, and this is Bradley Kendall, and tonight we're bringing you After Further Review, where we're going to be taking a look at Clemson's spring football game. So Bradley, after further review?
Spring into football.
Yeah, that's right. We've already officially got back into football season. Spring game was this past Saturday, and we got to look at the quarterback situation that the Tigers are going to have to figure out before the start of the fall. So Evan, why don't you give us your
quarterbacks on play for better, for worse. Obviously, they performed all that well. So still quite a few question marks heading into the summer as far as who's going to take over that starting role and who's going to have to fill Deshaun's shoes, who's going to be taking that first snap against Kent State in August. Dabo says it's still going to be Kelly Bryant. I guess we should all assume it's going to be Kelly Bryant, but it was not good to see your potential starter plays.
And he actually, the first snap of the game, he tore a tendon in his pinky, and I was reading that they're planning on putting him, like they taped it up and he was fine the rest of the game, but he's going to put it in a splint for the next 6 weeks. So that may be an injury that if it's re-aggravated in the fall, then you'd have to think that somebody else.
And it's better to happen early. I mean, you don't want it to happen all. It's better. And I think a lot of them just are feeling the pressure of having to fill the shoes of Deshaun.
Oh, absolutely.
Whether it's lack of experience. People in a stadium for the first time, like Hunter Johnson, couldn't feel a snap for God's sake.
Right.
It'll be interesting, and it's probably going to be the talk of the rest of the offseason. Who's going to be the starting quarterback?
Well, and I also read somewhere that I guess last week, it said earlier in the week, but I guess it meant that article we posted several days ago that last week Kelly Bryant also tweaked his hamstring somehow. I guess in practice. So either way, he was not near 100% on Saturday. Which, if we're going to make up an excuse as to why he did so poorly, I guess that's a good excuse as any.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we know that the defense is going to be strong in the fall. Like we've kind of talked about that. Everybody kind of agrees that the defense, we are losing some guys. Like you're losing Boulware and you're losing other, pretty solid. I think the real question lies on the offensive side of the ball, and not exclusively for. I mean, you're losing Mike Williams. You are returning Hunter Renfrow. But I guess, in y'all's mind, do you feel like Hunter is going to be the go-to guy? Is it going to be Deion Kane? Like, who's going to step up and fill? Because Mike Williams, Hunter Renfrow can catch the ball. He's reliable. There's no doubting that. But if you needed a receiver to make a play, you threw the ball to Mike Williams. Yeah. There were so many times this season where we would be all sitting there crossing our fingers, and Deshaun would just throw it over the middle to Mike Williams, and he would go up and make an immaculate reception.
Well, even on that last drive in the national championship, you just put it on the sideline, he jumps up in the air, comes down with the ball.
And a guy that we kind of talked down about last season, Leggett. There's a lot of questions on the offensive side of the ball besides just quarterbacks. I mean, who do you feel like is kind of fill that role as a wide receiver?
Yeah, Kane's a good guy.
So you think over Hunter Renfrow?
I would say Hunter Renfrow is going to still be Mr. Reliable in terms of where Deshaun's going to start going. Now he's going to have a lot more, people on the defense, shadowing him and looking after him after what he's done the last 2 championships. But I think Deion Kane's going to end up being the guy. He's going to not be Mike Williams, but be kind of the guy that can step up in big situations down throughout the season.
Well, and we still got, obviously we got Renfrow, but he's more of kind of like the slot safety kind of guy. Like he's your safety blanket where if nobody's open down the field, then Renfrow's going to be open somewhere, right? Yeah. So he's not necessarily the go-to guy. He's a reliable guy, but not the go-to guy. So I think you're right that Deion Kane should probably be the go-to guy, if not maybe Ray times last season too. I think that's up for grabs just as much as any other position that we're having to fill.
Ray is going to be an X factor. He really will be. If we can get him going and drop the ball not drop the ball at the end zone line, it'll be a big threat for us, especially if we need a big play, in a big part of the game.
And I'm looking here at TigerNet and how Venables was pretty happy with the performance of his defense after the spring game. I mean, he described it as a pretty solid group. Again, they've got weapons returning. They're continuing to build. Venables he's established. He's been here for several years, and he's established his presence here at Clemson. And I think that the strong suit for Clemson next season will be defense.
It's the exact opposite of last year.
As in the past, it's been offense. I mean, you can go back to like the Taj Boyd era where they were scoring touchdowns left and right.
Well, it's because we weren't known for defense until we got shellacked by West Virginia in the Orange Bowl.
And they changed. And he came from, I think, Oklahoma. It was the same area that Chad Morris came from. I think he's still out at SMU. In particular, while we're still figuring out the quarterback situation, we'll be okay because our defense is so solid. and will be more of like the Clemson teams of old in the 80s where it was just, smash mouth type of football. Kind of similar to what Colorado was last season.
Yeah.
They weren't really known for their offense, but boy, were they known for their defense.
Absolutely.
And Colorado ended up being a pretty good team.
Which would be great for the quarterbacks, because if you have the first couple games, especially against Auburn and Louisville, a struggling Kelly Bryant or a struggling Hunter Johnson, they know that they have a defense, behind them that can step up in big situations and, provide some stability for them. It'll take the pressure off them.
Well, and even on a larger scale, as far as like Colorado, being kind of a defensive team, I think a more notoriously defensive team would be Alabama, right? And, you have good wide receivers, and O.J. Howard, arguably the best tight end in the country. You still can fall back on that defense if Jalen Hurts, fumbles, thrown in. Alabama has always, or not always, but in the Nick Saban era, been known for their defense.
Yeah.
Where even if their offense is playing bad, last year their defense scored like 13 touchdowns. So
Yeah.
you could stop their offense, and their defense is still going to put up points.
And leaders on the field and off the field. Like that's another thing that Venables touched on in his post-game press conference was in order for the defense is going to be good, right? They've got talent, but in order for them to be successful like they were last year, some of those guys that were secondary roles last year have got to step up.
Right.
They got to be the new Ben Boulware. Somebody on offense has got to be the new Mike Williams. And one of these quarterbacks is going to have to try and fill the roles of the quarterback that left last year. So I think that's going to be a big part of it is who I think largely determine the success of the team this year.
Well, I think something that's going to help, at least on defense, is that you only lost, 3 Watkins, Sportway technically, right? So,
Boulware, yep.
Right, and Ben Boulware,
Yep.
which obviously that's more of a vocal leader, kind of your
Yeah.
he's
The mad dog was the heart and soul of that defense.
Not always the best
Not
player
always
on
the
the field,
brains, but
the
he
guy
always
you want on
absolutely
exactly.
right.
So it helps that on defense you've got these guys who were groomed by Ben Boulware. You've got Christian Wilkins is coming back. You've got Austin Bryant coming back. Marcus Edmond, who made some great plays last year. Dexter Lawrence, Cleveland Farrell. So you've got a good core of defensive guys that are coming back. Whereas on offense, you've pretty much lost everybody. You lost a quarterback, a wide receiver, a tight end, and a center. You lost Jake Guillermo, a huge part of that offensive line. So all the important offensive positions, you've a whole lot of guys who step up and kind of be that leader of the offense. There's not that many guys on that offense left. You lost half your offense, so that's going to be hard for anybody to replace, but it's especially hard coming off a national championship to have to replace the guys that got you to that national championship.
And you lost so many playmakers on offense. It's not just, guys. I mean, you can lose numbers and be okay, but when you lose a Deshaun and when you
best wide receiver in the country.
and then you've got Leggett, who still was a
arguably one of the best tight ends.
Good tight end, even though we didn't feel so back then, and there's a lot of questions for on the offensive side. I mean, obviously, with 7 returning starters on defense, the defense has depth. We've kind of already touched on that, and I think that Clemson will I think they'll be one of the better defensive. Can still pose a game for Auburn.
Right.
Auburn's here this year. I think it'll be a low-scoring game. It might be
well,
like what we saw last. So those
forward.
types of games might be the new normal for this year until the quarterback situation is totally figured out.
And the defense will be huge, especially when you have to face Louisville or Florida State. Teams in the ACC that can put up points.
Yeah.
We're going to need a good defense. And last year when we were battling it out possession by possession for touchdowns, it'll be a lot different story this year.
Yeah.
Which is why I think for that Kent State game, we shouldn't hit the panic button too soon because, I could pretty much go ahead and guess that game probably is not going to be like a 58-0 against South Carolina State kind of day. I would be surprised if that game is like 38 to like 17, like a lot closer than it should be.
Hopefully not a Troy game.
Right. And people panic during the close. Troy should not be doing this to us. So I feel like they're going to say kind of the same things about Kent State simply because we still got so much to figure out. No offense to the Golden Flashes. It's good to have that kind of tune-up, that glorified practice of a game so that you can figure some of this stuff out in a real game context.
For sure.
Like the spring game, obviously 60,000 people there. That's a pretty real game day environment, but everybody's pulling for the same team. Everybody wants to see you do well. When you got, a third of the stadium, we'll say, that's pulling against you, that's a completely different atmosphere.
Yeah,
so
the environment has
right,
changed.
A real-life environment. Kind of tuned up as far as a real college game atmosphere. I think that'll go a long way. So I wouldn't be too surprised if that Kent State game's a little bit closer than we would like to see.
And another thing that we've talked or haven't really talked about is the special teams. I mean, you've got, I think, a pretty good kicker in Hugel. You've got Spears now punting, back there returning. And special teams may be a strength for Clemson when in the past it's been a liability.
Well, two years ago it lost the national championship.
It's been iffy every time the ball goes up and you're just,
Or if you do catch it and you return it for a touchdown, except you drop it at the half.
Yeah, so
Looking at
special
you, Ray,
teams, I think, instead of being a liability for Clemson, could become an asset.
Yeah.
And on top of having a really strong defense, I think you can get away with not having a great offense. Because your special teams, if it becomes a field possession game, special teams is that critical, thing that can push the needle, I guess, your direction.
Well, and our special teams was way better last year than it was the year before that. I mean, we had special teams goof-ups in the national championship when in that game. So the fact that we tuned up our special teams, with the exception of a couple of drop punts here and there, we were pretty darn good on kick returns, especially from a special team. So the fact that we were a lot better at that helps us go into this year, and that we can kind of carry over that trend of still being good at special teams.
And even if it's not talent, you have experience.
Right.
You have experience.
Exactly.
I mean, we're going to have a new punter. Teasdale.
Right,
Let's just be honest here. It wasn't the best.
No,
so we have someone that can replace him.
Somebody who's not going to kick it 20 yards a punt.
Hugo will be there, and you got guys that finally, hopefully, can return.
But now you say that, and I mean, I know I kind of touched on like how our special teams may be an asset, but like I'm looking. Hugel had, I think, one long kick, or was that Spears that had one long kick?
Spears
where it was
had
61 yards.
59, 60-yard punt, something along those lines.
So, Spears had a 61-yarder, but then he had a few shorter punts, 40 yards. That's not great. I mean,
Right.
I know we knocked Teasdale, but 40 yards averaging is not.
Doing the rugby style punts.
And that may be something that they should go to. I
Yeah.
think personally, when it comes to special teams, I think our return game will be the difference, rather than kicking it 60 yards every time.
Which Ray, going back to him, he could really be a threat.
Or Hunter
especially
Renfro.
Or Hunter Renfro.
Or Hunter
yeah.
Renfro.
Which, and as hard of a time as we give Teasdale, we probably did, and I just can't think of it, but did we have anybody return a punt for a touchdown on us last year? It doesn't immediately come to mind whether it happened or not. I'm sure there's a good chance that
Maybe
it
not
did.
that, but
No.
I think in terms of just the field positioning.
right.
Yeah.
That was the
It
hard
was
part.
a
doesn't help to
bigger
give them the
issue.
ball on the 40,
exactly.
when punting from the.
But I felt like
But having a good defense.
Right.
having a good defense is key, and I did feel like the last God or whoever would go to field the punt, you always had this moment where you just breath, hoping that he would catch it.
That shouldn't be something we have to worry about.
Exactly.
No,
that's something
a
that
routine.
should be taken.
Back there after Dabba decided to give Ray that job off, I was more confident that Artavis would at least catch it. I wasn't expecting him to electrify that return like Ray is capable of doing. Obviously, seeing him return that would-be touchdown, you see kind of why he is the punt returner.
Right.
But then when he drops 2 or 3 in one game, then you kind of see why he needed to be replaced. So at least with Artavis back there, I knew he was going to catch it, but I also knew he wasn't going to return it for a touchdown.
And going back to what we were saying about Bama, how they can score non-offensive touchdowns.
Right.
I mean, this will be huge, especially if our offense struggles early. You get like a spark plug like a Ray McLeod that returns a touchdown on a
big
punt.
play.
It could spark the way for the rest of the game.
One thing I do kind of want to go back to that we quarterback battle that we got to see on Saturday, and Kelly Bryant obviously had that injury, and that you could argue kind of he went, I think 4-13 for 43 interception. Now what's really interesting here, and I don't think either of you touched on it, the only quarterback to not throw an interception was Tucker Israel.
Yeah.
Tucker went 13 of 19 for 94 yards, and then he had a 14-yard touchdown pass to Travion Thompson.
With more opportunities to throw the ball. With
Yes.
19 attempts.
Right.
Yes, so
That's the most attempts of any of the
Zarek
quarterbacks.
Cooper, redshirt freshman, he went 11 of 18 for 81 yards. He had an interception. And then Hunter Johnson was 5 for 13 with 48 yards, although he did throw a 24-yard touchdown pass to DeAndre Overton.
Right.
So, honestly, even though I'm looking at an ESPN article that says, and I quote, Clemson's shaky spring game, I think you could definitely argue that Tucker Israel had the more impressive performance.
And I wouldn't look too far. It's just kind of a practice simulated environment. One thing you didn't really touch on in Kelly Bryant, 12 rushes for 66 yards and a touchdown.
Right.
So, going back to guys, throwers
Yeah.
that could run the ball, could be huge in determining if he's going to get started.
And a
or not.
skill that someone like Tucker Israel may not have.
And it's what Dabo's like to see with Deshaun in the past, is someone that can run the ball.
That's fair. That's fair.
And I know you don't want to look too much into some of these numbers because it is basically glorified practice.
Right.
And, a lot of these numbers, they don't mean anything except for our own curiosity's sake. But I think it is kind of worth taking into account that except for a touchdown, Hunter Johnson and Kelly Bryant had basically the exact same stat line. Johnson was 5 for 13 with a pick for 48 yards. Bryant was 4 for 13 with a pick for 43 yards. So even though, again, Kelly Bryant playing not 100% and these numbers aren't going to have any effect on anything, I still the fact that the potential starter in the fall has the exact same spring game numbers as a guy who's been on campus for, half a semester?
Yeah.
Maybe?
Yeah.
Just as well. guy who's been studying under a second-place Heisman Trophy finalist the past 2 years. Like, that's a little bit concerning. But and then on the other hand, it's easy to talk myself off that ledge and say these numbers don't mean anything, spring game, blah, blah, blah. But still, I don't want my potential starter who's been here for 2.5, 3 years, however long it's been, to have the same numbers as a guy who should still be in high school right now.
I mean, as a whole, the quarterbacks went 33 for 63, 266 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 4 INTs.
Yeah.
Now, you could say, well, some of those interceptions were just errant throws, or some of those interceptions were
lack of
double
execution.
coverage.
Yeah, double coverage, and it was just poor. Afterwards, he said, we would never sign them if we didn't believe in them. We definitely have the ingredients to be a team that has a chance. You're never going to hear me come out and say teams that has a chance. So obviously, no vocalized concerns from the coaching staff after the game.
Competition is huge for quarterbacks. I mean, you've seen it in the past, like we were talking like with Bama. You know, they have last year Jalen Hurts competing with another guy right behind him. He goes on to make it to the national championship. So I mean, you know, competition is not a bad thing. It can be a good thing. It can be a bad thing, but
Some guys flourish. Some guys flounder in it.
Well, and we look at these quarterback stats as kind of a bad thing, which on the offensive side of the ball it is, but on the defensive side of the ball, the quarterbacks only had a 50% completion rate, about 250 yards, and you had twice as many interceptions as you did touchdowns.
Yeah.
I mean, if our defense puts up that kind of stats throughout the season in any game, that's
Yeah.
pretty good. If you
Yeah.
take the ball away from them twice as many times as you let them score, you're doing all right. On
yeah,
defense.
Venables was happy after the game.
Yeah,
for
no,
sure.
yeah, for-
I mean, we had great numbers from the
That's true.
quarterback.
Fair, I think, because again, you know, you want as a fan, you want to see touchdowns, you want to see first downs, you want to see these 40-yard bomb game, and watching Kelly Bryant throw these deep passes out of bounds. That's what was most concerning to me was the lack of deep ball accuracy from Kelly Bryant.
Especially with a guy like Deion Kane that can be a
Yeah,
threat.
because I mean, Deion can make those catches.
Yeah.
Hunter can make those catches.
That's what Deion's here for. He's
But
our
when you're throwing the
downfield
ball out of bounds, you're not even giving your guy a chance.
Right.
So I think that they'll tune it up over the next
Right.
few months, and by the fall we should be okay.
Oh, and I think you can find one glaring weak spot in all 4 of the quarterbacks' games. Obviously, with Kelly, it's the deep ball, and with Hunter, he's still nervous, can't take a snap. Again, because he should be a senior in high school right now. So, like, you can pick out each, but it's very easy to see why Dabo is not concerned, because in his mind, these quarterbacks just played against the best defense in the country.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's fair.
you still got 4 or 5 months to work out some of these kinks before, the Golden Flashes march into Death Valley, and hopefully don't pose any threat to you.
You make that sound so much more intimidating than it
The
is.
Golden Flashes.
Golden Flashes.
Now, real quick, prediction, like, I guess going forward, who do you think is going to be the starter in the end? I guess we can say in the end because it's probably going to change
It
over
could.
the course of the first couple of
As
games,
long as
but
we don't see the Gus Malzahn Auburn 3 quarterback system that
we're
didn't
going to be
work.
playing
know
them the
about
second
that.
game,
Right.
so you
So
might
as
be
long
seeing
as
that,
I'm confident Dabo's smart enough not to do that, but as long as we don't see that system, I think we should be fine.
So you think Kelly Bryant? Is that
Well, talking to my buddy Joe, who works in the recruiting office earlier today, he said this is Kelly Bryant's starting job to lose. So unless something goes horribly, it's severely injured or starts playing really, really badly against Kent State or even the first half against Auburn, I still see Kelly Bryant being on in terms of how his game has developed. Been able to study under Deshaun for the past 2 years, which I think is going to help. So again, I see it as
With what you're saying there, I also think it is important to note that even when Deshaun came on, and as phenomenal as he was even initially, Cole Stout still got props. Taj Boyd left. Deshaun, everybody wanted to see Deshaun. If you remember, a lot of Clemson fans were not happy when Cole Stout started.
well, it's because Deshaun was better than Cole Stout anyway.
But remember how there was a lot of dissatisfied fans when Cole Stout was starting.
Just like
And what did
Hunter
Dabo do?
Right.
He put Cole Stout in. And then eventually down the road,
Figured it out.
put in Deshaun after Stout had, I think, 4 or 5. It was the Florida State game when
He
Deshaun came in.
Mid-Florida State game.
I definitely agree that it's Kelly Bryant's job to lose. I think, honestly, the more intriguing two. I think that's where the real discussion comes. Like, is it Israel because he had a really good spring game, or is it going to be the new guy? Like, who's going to be? Because you know that Kent State game, Kelly Bryant's not going to play all 60 minutes.
At least you hope he doesn't have to.
Exactly.
But you didn't think Deshaun was going to have to play 60 minutes and get destroyed either.
This is true, but theoretically speaking, he's going to come out in the middle of the third quarter.
Hopefully halftime.
Who's going to replace him? That's what I'm interested to see. I think Kelly Bryant's going to get the number 1 job if he's healthy, like you pointed out. But the number 2 spot is where I've got my eyes.
It's going to be huge for the Auburn game if Kelly Bryant actually starts to struggle.
And we won't know who the number 2 guy is until mid-third quarter against Kent State.
That's what
I mean,
makes
you
it
can
so
look at the
intriguing.
depth chart, but that doesn't mean anything.
And that could even change by the end of the game. If something
Oh,
goes
yeah.
horribly wrong.
They can-
All right, who would you want as number 2? Who do you? All right, so if Kelly Bryant's our starter, if we can pretty much agree on that, who do you have the most faith in to be the backup? Who, if Kelly Bryant goes down in the second quarter to try to win the second game, because that's not going to be an easy game And Auburn's revamped, recruited really well. That's not going to be an easy game to win. Who do you want the ball? Who do you want to put?
Hunter Johnson.
You really don't.
No.
I would say if you're gonna take away Kelly Bryant out of this picture here and go with these three guys who don't have any experience, both of them are in the exact same level.
None of them have any experience.
I'd take the most talent, and I'd go with Hunter Johnson.
I think
someone that can hit a deep ball throw.
I would love.
But the boy can't pick up a snap.
But you got 4 or 5 months to work
he's
that
got
out.
time to work.
Yeah, hopefully.
Got some real life experience with the 60,000 on hand last Saturday. You can simulate crowd noise.
Let's just say,
practice.
Simulation is not the real thing, though. That's important to know.
If that's the only thing he has to work on, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, if all he needs to do is figure out how to take a snap, you can take 10,000 snaps.
I agree that Hunter is the most talented, but I think when it comes to these spurts of amazing play, drive that's absolutely terrible.
Well, the thing is, we don't know how consistent any of these three are because we've hardly.
Consistent in my eyes from watching the spring game was Israel. I felt like he played the best overall. Just, level head, poised, made good decisions. That's huge.
It's also easy for him to make those short throws.
Right.
You tell him to throw a long ball.
But if you're playing Auburn and it's a big game and it's early in the season and who knows, it may be a night game and there's 80,000 screaming people there, you're going to do those little short throws. And you're going to build up that confidence of that quarterback before you start chucking it 40 yards down the field. Hunter Johnson may never throw a 40-yard ball this season.
Right.
I think in his mind, he's got nothing to lose. Tucker Israel at this point. I mean, he's got zero pressure.
Yeah, exactly. You might as well just put it all out on the line.
Couple interesting things that I do want to bring up just real fast. That in this spring game, we talk about who the go-to guy as a wide receiver is going to be for whoever the quarterback is. The potential go-to guy wasn't even on the field on Saturday because he's still in high school. T. Higgins, and we just don't know that he didn't play on Saturday. So it'll be real interesting to see him step in this summer.
A lot of hype around
Right,
him.
and he's so good. He's a skilled recruit. It's going to be really interesting to see when he comes in if that kind of helps take the pressure off of some of these guys. Like, if you have somebody that good that you could throw to, then it relieves a lot of your pressure. That you don't have to worry about who the go-to guy is. You don't have to worry about if you need to throw it to Ray or Travion or Hunter or whoever, because you got T, as Deshaun had Mike.
Yeah.
So I think that'll be really interesting to see.
Now, that would be huge for him to come in as a freshman, as a true freshman, and fulfill such a big role when you've got guys like Hunter Renfrow, who,
Well, you know who else did that? Sammy Watkins.
He did. He came in and had an amazing Now, his sophomore year wasn't.
His sophomore year, a little slump.
But
his freshman year was fine.
I feel like Hunter is. There's nothing to make me question his reliability, and he's been on the national stage now for 2 years. He has arguably, besides maybe Perry Tuttle's in the '81 championship game. I think Hunter can handle that stage. I think Deion can handle the stage, and I think that they'll help mentor T. Higgins when he comes in, and I think receivers-wise, we should be good to go.
Yeah, and then one more thing to consider. We talk about the quarterbacks now. Just think about this conversation we're going to have for quarterbacks next year.
Trevor Lawrence.
With Trevor Lawrence coming in and potentially Hunter Johnson thinking this is going to be his team. And then you got the number 1 overall player, quarterback, whatever, in the class of 2018 that he's going to march in here and think he deserves to be the starter. How's that going to play out?
Because Kelly will he graduate?
Even if
after
he
the
does,
season?
Junior.
Trevor Lawrence is still going to compete for that starting job. So we might have this exact same conversation this time next year. Except instead of 4 guys, we're going to have 5.
You think next year? Is everybody?
As far as I know, I think everyone is coming back.
Everyone is. Now, to be honest with you, if it gets to that point where there's 5 guys and guys are coming in as freshmen,
somebody's going to transfer.
Somebody's going to transfer.
Well, and I heard on the radio not too long ago after Trevor Lawrence announced that he was going to come here, the guy was like, well, is he going to be up for that competition? Because he could go just about anywhere he wants to, and he could probably be the starter there. Whereas here, he's going to either have to wait or win that quarterback battle, which obviously he could win that quarterback battle. He's got a strong arm, he's tall, he makes good decisions and good throws. So it wouldn't be a problem for him to win that competition or even just to sit out for half the year or whatever it is. But is he willing to do that? Somebody with that much skill and talent, you got to be too good to ride the bench, could go start somewhere else. You never know. So again, it's a good problem to have, but it's also in a way that you really don't want to see. And
very true.
We have very talented quarterbacks who could be the future of our team leave.
We still got a lot of questions to answer for this season.
Oh, yeah. The answers after the spring game.
We're spring into 2019.
It's been a lot of fun, though. Evan, thanks so much for joining us. Don't forget to check out his show On the Prowl just before ours on Tigervision, Tuesdays at 6:30?
Yes,
6
o'clock.
So for Bradley and Evan and myself, this has been After Further Review.
Thank you for watching.